Why did no one look at her twice when the alarms began to scream? The first siren cut through the Nevada heat like a blade, echoing off the hangars and desert concrete. Men and women in uniform shot up from break rooms and briefing tables, eyes wide, pulse spiking. But she moved quietly, almost unnoticed. Maya Reynolds, the one in grease-stained coveralls, didn't run like they did. She walked, almost calmly, almost like she already understood what was coming. Maybe she did. Maybe that was the part no one ever asked. She pushed through the maintenance doors as the second siren ripped across the base, sharper than the first, warning of threats no one expected. Radar hands scrambled, officers barked commands, and pilots sprinted toward fighters that refused to open. Screens flashed, error codes pulsed, dead systems everywhere. She heard fragments. Bogies inbound, 5 confirmed. What do you mean the squadron is locked out? They're spreading into attack formation. Maya kept walking. People shouted at her to step back, to return to maintenance, to stay out of the way, but their voices blurred beneath a heavier sound, her heartbeat. Slow, controlled, the way a heartbeat becomes when it's been trained to steady itself in chaos. But there was something she hadn't told them, not yet. She passed 2 panicked pilots staring up at a monitor where 5 red dots carved across the radar display like blood drops. One of them cursed out loud when the path became clear, straight for the base for all of them. He slammed a fist against the console, muttering something about needing backup, needing immediate authorization, needing anything that would stop what was coming. Anything. But nothing was coming. No reinforcements, no squadrons ready, no backup in range, just 5 incoming fighters and 12 minutes to live. 12 minutes to prove what everyone refused to see. The pilots ran toward their jets, desperate, only to find the lockdown was real, canopies frozen, engines inert, software dead. It was a cruel stillness, like the jets themselves didn't trust the hands trying to wake them. Maya slipped through the bodies crowding around the flight line as if they weren't there. She kept her gaze forward toward Hangar 4, toward the only jet not bound to the glitch, because she had kept it offline during morning maintenance. Because habits are funny like that, some you don't question, some you don't explain. Especially when they save lives. A sergeant tried blocking her path. Maintenance isn't cleared for this area during alert. Get back. She did. Couldn't. Not today. She moved around him, swift but quiet. Her face showed nothing. Not fear, not hesitation, just a silent calculation, and maybe something deeper, something like grief trying to disguise itself as focus. But no one knew how well she could hide pain. No one cared enough to learn. She stepped inside the hangar where the F-22 waited like a sleeping animal, cold, quiet, untouched, a beauty she knew better than her own reflection. Her fingertips brushed the metal as she climbed the ladder. The first breath she took inside the cockpit almost hurt. 4 years since she'd last sat in one, and yet her body remembered every inch. Her hands trembled not from fear, but from recognition, from returning to something she loved, something she lost, something that lived inside her even as the world tried to bury it. Yet even now she hesitated. Because flying meant breaking a silence she'd spent years protecting. Someone below shouted again, "You can't do that, you need clearance." But the words collapsed beneath the cockpit glass as it sealed her inside. The world outside went quiet. Then her fingers moved. Without needing to think, without second-guessing, every switch, every sequence, every system she woke felt like muscle memory, felt like breathing. She typed a code no one on that flight line expected anyone to know. A name she hadn't heard in years. A name they stole from her. The panels lit up. Engines roared awake. That machine, grounded for everyone else, opened its eyes for her like it had only been waiting. Someone in the tower screamed, "Who's powering that jet?" Maya lowered her gaze. She could answer. She could explain, but explanations had never saved her before. Her voice slid into the radio like she never left. Shadow requesting clearance. Silence. Then panic shock. Shadow. No, who is this? That call sign is retired. Identify immediately. She closed her eyes, took a breath, felt the weight of old betrayal pressing on her ribs like an invisible hand. I have 5 inbound hostiles. You have no intercept capability. Give me clearance. The operator in the tower tripped over his words. This is unauthorized. Power down now. Their fear wasn't about the enemy. It was about her. It always had been. A different voice came through, calm, familiar, older. Maya, is that you? Major Collins, her supervisor, one of the only people who treated her like she wasn't broken. Yes, sir, she answered quietly. You haven't flown in. I never stopped, she whispered. A beat. On the radar screen in front of him, 5 red dots crawled closer. He exhaled, miles away but suddenly right beside her. You're cleared. That was all she needed. The jet surged forward, faster than anyone could react. She streaked down the runway, engines screaming against the desert, against time, against every hand that had tried to keep her grounded. And God, it felt like coming home. The earth fell away. The sky opened. She shot upward, climbing hard, straight into searing blue that swallowed everything except the roar of engines and the pulse steady beneath her ribs. No panic. No doubt. No hesitation. Just the silence she understood. She whispered to the jet, not words, just feeling, and it responded like it still knew her heartbeat, like it never forgot her hands, like it had been waiting for her the same way she'd been waiting for it. 5 red signatures appeared ahead. 5 fighters. Unknown. Hostile. She didn't flinch, didn't break, didn't look away. Instead, something softened in her eyes, an old familiar calm. The same calm that cost her everything 4 years ago. Her hands moved delicately like she was guiding something fragile, not hunting, almost dancing, like this was more art than war, more meditation than mission. She slipped into their vector before they knew she was there. Her first missile locked and released, a clean severing of a threat, a ripple of sound swallowed by open sky. 1 red dot flickered, then disappeared. 4 left. No cheers on the radio. No gasps of awe. Just stunned silence. She dove, curled, climbed, flowing through the air like she belonged to it, like the sky remembered her too. An enemy jet flanked, firing. She pulled at 9 GS and it felt like falling into old scars, but she didn't scream, didn't shake. Only breathed. The second target fell. 3. They tried splitting, old tactic. She smiled, small, quiet, sad, like she wished they tried harder. 2 more disappeared. The last enemy ran. Of course it did. They always run when the ghost arrives. She chased not with hunger but with precision, grace, mercy where she could afford it, relentless where she couldn't. The sky blinked again. 1 dot left on the screen. Then none. 12 minutes, maybe 13. That was all. All the threat, all the danger. Gone. She slowed her breathing, but her heart didn't calm. Not yet, because victory never felt like triumph, not to her. Not when she had carried years of silence to get here. Not when those watching only now realized who she'd always been. She turned toward home. Shadow returning. The radio crackled with a voice that trembled. Copy, returning. Quietly she descended, gliding like the fight hadn't happened at all. The jet, bullet-scarred and weary, touched down with gentle grace. Not a show, not a triumph. Just a landing. Feet hit concrete, air tasted different. Hundreds of eyes stared. Some confused. Some afraid. many ashamed. She removed her helmet slowly, like it weighed more than she remembered. Her hair stuck to her forehead, damp with sweat, but her gaze stayed still, soft. Not proud, not bitter, just tired. Major Collins reached her first, his eyes wet. Everyone else hovered back, unable to look at her the same way they had that morning. One officer demanded answers, how she accessed, how she flew, how she... But she wasn't listening. Instead, her gaze drifted past them to a man standing at the edge of the crowd, arms crossed, jaw tight, eyes like a cornered predator. Colonel Drake, the one who erased her. Her fingers curled around her gloves, not clenched, just holding, like she needed something to anchor her. She wasn't afraid, just done being small. There was something she hadn't told them. But now she finally would. And suddenly, the base felt too quiet, as if everyone knew the real battle was only just beginning. Why did her fingers tremble, not from fear but from memory? Silence clung to the flight line, thicker than the desert heat. Hundreds stared at Maya, no longer invisible, no longer just the woman who wiped glass and tightened bolts. She hadn't even spoken yet, but everything about her presence seemed to rewrite the air around them. She looked past the crowd toward him. Colonel Drake. His posture was rigid, his eyes scanning her like he was trying to decide if she was flesh or ghost. The lines at his mouth hardened with a flicker of panic, so quick most would have missed it. But not her. She had spent 4 years reading silence. Footsteps approached. The duty officer's voice fumbled, brittle. Miss Reynolds, your credentials were revoked. This was a breach of protocol. We need to know how. She slid her gloves off slowly, placing them on the wing as though tending to a wounded friend. The aircraft still steamed with heat from the engines. Bullet scars along the right wing bled smoke, tender and ugly in the sunlight. I never stopped knowing how, she said gently. Confusion rippled. No, the officer stammered. I mean your authorization. She reached into her flight suit. A small silver badge hung on a chain. The word shadow glinted. She pressed the metal between her fingers, not to show it off, but like one holds a memory before letting it go. I use my old code, she murmured. A hush fell. Somewhere in the crowd, a mechanic whispered to another, old code. They said she never flew. How quickly lies dissolved in truth. She raised the badge slightly, not like a medal, but like a shard of her past. It was never deleted, she continued, only buried. The duty officer stared, baffled. That code should have been wiped. That identity was. Erased, she finished quietly. Yes. The word hung between them, heavier than the heat. Colonel Drake stepped forward, his voice sharp, too sharp. That code is classified beyond your current clearance. This entire incident is illegal, and you will answer for it. Her gaze didn't flinch, didn't break. I already have, she said, for 4 years. A murmur shivered down the line. He tried again, louder, hopping volume could hide fear. You are not a pilot, not anymore. You reactivated a restricted aircraft and engaged in unsanctioned combat. Major Collins stepped in, voice steady. She saved this base. Drake glared at him. She defied orders. A pause. Then Collins said quietly, there were no orders left to defy. They escorted her to the command center, not in cuffs but not freely. Eyes followed her like she was radioactive, some curious, some reverent, some still clinging to disbelief. She walked without hurry. Inside, screens replayed radar footage, one blue dot weaving through 5 red. Some technicians watched in awe, others with shame etched across their faces. She didn't look at the screens. She didn't need to. She had lived it. At the center table, a cluster of officers argued legalities, protocols, fear. When she entered, the room fell still. A few stood taller. A few dropped their eyes. The base commander had returned, General Tate. Older, rigid face carved from stone, but his gaze held neither hostility nor warmth, only measurement. "You were Captain Maya Reynolds," he said, not a question. She nodded once. "You were court-martialed," he continued. "Your record sealed, your call sign retired." Again she nodded. "And yet," his jaw tilted slightly, "you flew today." "Because no one else could," she replied softly. Drake scoffed, arrogant to the end. She turned toward him, not aggressive, not cruel, just seeing him clearly, like she'd waited 4 years to look without fear. "I never claimed to be the best," she said, "only prepared." Those words settled like dust. General Tate folded his hands. "Your actions saved this base. That isn't under dispute." Drake stepped forward sharply. "Sir, she violated." Tate raised a hand, silencing him. "Not yet," he said. Then to Maya, "You access Shadow 01. No one here has that code." "I was given it when I earned it," she replied. "It remained in the archive." "You shouldn't have been able to retrieve it without classified clearance." Her silence was an answer. Tate's eyes narrowed. "How did you know it still existed?" That was the question hanging in the room. The one she knew was coming. The one she dreaded, not because she feared the truth, but because the truth carried weight no one wanted to hold. She exhaled slowly. "Because someone made sure it remained." The room stiffened. "Someone—" The weight in her voice traced through the air like electricity. But she didn't elaborate, not yet. Instead, her gaze drifted to Colonel Drake. The corner of his mouth twitched. His knuckles whitened. And for the first time, other people noticed. General Tate leaned back, studying her. "You flew like you hadn't been grounded," he said. "How?" "I never stopped flying," she replied. "I trained every night. Simulations, systems, strategy. I stayed current, I stayed ready." He watched her, long quiet. "Most pilots couldn't have done what you did." "I'm not most pilots." She didn't say it with pride. She said it like a confession. Like a flaw. They released her to the briefing room, alone. Not a cell. But not freedom. The room felt colder, narrower. Silence clung to her skin. She leaned forward, elbows on knees, hands covering her face. The fighter helmet sat beside her, still warm. For a moment, the world faded behind her closed eyes. She remembered a different briefing room. 4 years ago. The same cold chairs, the same fluorescent hum. But that room had been full of voices accusing her of a crime even she couldn't fully explain. 17 minutes. 17 minutes, where her aircraft vanished from radar during a classified operation. She returned with damage she couldn't speak about, with information she couldn't share, with a truth buried beneath a classification above her clearance. They asked for her explanation. She gave the truth she was allowed to speak, which wasn't enough, never enough. They wanted a clean story. She didn't have one. So they wrote their own. She felt her chest tighten, the same ache, the same helplessness, but this time it was quieter. The wound had scarred, it no longer bled, but it still burned. She slowly lowered her hands. Outside the small window, the desert stretched endless, silent, sun-bleached, unforgiving, a place where truth could disappear quietly, just like a pilot on radar. The door opened. Major Collins slipped inside. No file in his hand, no protocol in his posture, just worry in his eyes. "You okay?" he asked. She managed a thin smile. "I will be." He sank into the chair across from her. For a long moment he didn't speak. He just sat with her, maybe because silence was safer than questions. Finally he said, "Why didn't you tell me?" She swallowed. "It wasn't safe, not for you, not then." His brow furrowed. "What about now?" She hesitated. "I don't know yet." He nodded slowly, accepted that. He'd learned to respect silence. After a breath he asked quietly, Did you know this would happen? No, she said, but I knew something would. What do you mean? She hesitated, then shook her head. Not yet. He let it go because trust, he'd learned, wasn't always about knowing. Sometimes it was simply choosing to believe. Hours later, the door opened again. This time, an intelligence officer entered, dark suit, sharp eyes, someone from higher up, someone who didn't belong on a training base. He took the seat across from her. Captain Reynolds, he began. Not Captain, she corrected, not anymore. He studied her, perhaps not by paperwork. His gaze flicked to the helmet beside her, a small gesture, but full of meaning. You didn't just save this base, he said. You exposed something. She didn't respond. He continued. Colonel Drake is attempting to invalidate your actions. His story is changing. Of course it is, she murmured. Some of his claims contradict archived reports from your court-martial. She met his eyes, calm, steady. I'm aware. Were you aware that most of the evidence used against you came from his office? Some, she replied, not all. He leaned forward, and the missing data from those 17 minutes. A pulse flicked beneath her skin, not visible but there. She didn't answer. Not yet. He reached into his briefcase, slowly, like someone handling something volatile. He set a small object on the table. A flight data recorder. Black. Unmarked. Cold. Her breath caught. He watched her carefully. We recovered this from your locker. You turned it in this morning. She closed her eyes. Yes. That had been her choice. Finally, the officer spoke softly. Why now? Her voice cracked, not with weakness but with something older, deeper. Because today it mattered. She lifted her gaze, eyes shining, not with tears but with memory. I went dark to protect my squadron, she whispered, not to betray them. In those 17 minutes, what did you see? She hesitated. Then, I saw a traitor working beside me. The words landed like gunfire in the small room. The officer didn't breathe. She continued. I intercepted his transmission. He was selling tactical data. I recorded all of it, every word, every encrypted packet. And this recorder contains the truth. Silence. The officer exhaled, slowly, carefully, like someone standing on unstable ground. We'll move forward carefully, he said. There are people above Drake who won't want this seen. I know, she said quietly. And if they try to bury it again? She didn't flinch. I'm done being buried. He studied her for a long moment, then stood. Before leaving, he said, almost gently, you were never invisible, Captain. They just refused to look. The door closed. She sat alone. But for the first time in 4 years, she didn't feel like a ghost. She felt real. And the truth finally had a pulse. Somewhere down the hall, raised voices erupted, one shouting, one denying, boots striking tile, a struggle, then silence. She didn't move. Didn't need to. Because she knew exactly who was being led away. Truth had weight. And today it finally landed. The sky outside dimmed, the sun dipping low against the horizon. Desert shadows stretched long across the tarmac. She closed her eyes. 4 years. 17 minutes. And now one truth. It all felt impossibly heavy. Yet beneath that weight, a strange feeling grew. Not triumph. Not relief. Something quieter. Hope. The kind that doesn't shout. The kind that waits. She lifted her head, looking toward the window again. The horizon glowed orange, and for the first time the sky didn't feel distant. It felt close. Familiar. Like it remembered her. And maybe, just maybe, it was calling again. Why did the quiet hours after truth feel more dangerous than combat? Night crept over Nellies like a slow-moving tide, drowning the heat beneath a cool hush. After the interrogation, they let her walk, technically not detained, but every step felt like it pressed deeper into uncertain ground. No one stopped her. No one dared. Yet every pair of eyes followed her, like they were watching a fault line threatening to split the earth. She didn't head for the barracks. Her feet led her back to Hangar 4. To the jet. To the only place that made sense. Inside, work lights cast fractured gold across metal. Technicians had already begun assessing damage, bullet scars along the wing, stress fractures along the intake. Someone had chalked quick notes near the landing gear. Standard procedure. But no one was actually working. They stood around silently, pretending to inspect equipment, unsure whether to speak to her or apologize. She walked straight to the aircraft, laying her palm against its skin, still warm from the day's violence. The smell of burnt fuel and desert sand lingered. A strange calm wrapped itself around her bones. She knew planes better than people, knew how they sounded when hurting, knew how to comfort them. "You brought me home," she whispered. An ache flickered in her voice, gratitude woven with grief. Footsteps behind her. She didn't turn. Major Collins leaned against a support beam, arms crossed, not guarding, just watching. His expression held something like relief and something like worry. "You always talk to airplanes?" he asked quietly. "Only the ones that listen," she said. He huffed a breath that was almost a laugh. Almost. "Intel took the drive," he said. "They're running an urgent evaluation. The general's pushing for expedited review. Pentagon's involved already." She nodded, still facing the jet. "They'll try to bury it," she murmured. He didn't deny it. "Some will, but not all." "That's what I'm afraid of," she said. "Not the enemy, the silence." Her hand slid along the fuselage. Collins stepped closer. "You did the impossible today. You flew against 5 fighters, alone, and you came back." She closed her eyes. "That wasn't the impossible part." He frowned. "Then what was?" "The landing," she said. He blinked. "Why?" Her throat tightened. For a moment she didn't speak. Then, "Because coming back meant facing this." He stared at her in the dim light, really looked. The weight she'd carried wasn't just from betrayal. It was from return. From stepping back into a world that discarded her, choosing to stand again inside the same walls that broke her. "How did you survive 4 years of this?" he asked softly. She hesitated, then admitted. "I didn't." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of everything she had never said, everything no one had asked. She looked around the hangar, its shadows, its loneliness, the faint hum of resting engines. She had spent countless nights here, wiping metal, cleaning panels, staring at machines she once commanded. Waiting. The waiting had been the hardest, not knowing if it meant hope or foolishness. "You think I'm strong," she said, "because I held on." "Yes," Collins answered simply. She shook her head. "No, being strong wasn't holding on. Being strong was deciding every day not to let resentment become my identity." He swallowed, something in his eyes softened. She shifted, leaning back against the wing. "Every day I asked myself, am I waiting for truth or just refusing to let go?" "And what did you decide?" "That the difference doesn't matter," she said. "What matters is whether you stay ready." He nodded slowly. "You never stopped training." "I couldn't," she whispered. "If I did, then they truly would have taken everything." Collins stepped beside her, not crowding, just standing with her. After a long moment, he said, "You know, after the court-martial, I requested to see the sealed file." She turned, stunned. "I was denied repeatedly." He exhaled sharply. "Everything was closed off, too closed. I knew then there was more." "Why didn't you say anything?" He gave a sad smile. Because I wasn't sure who to trust, and because you were already carrying more than enough. I didn't want to add false hope. She looked at him, a long, searching look, the kind reserved for those who stay when others leave. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" "For not pretending I was broken." He swallowed hard. "You weren't broken, Maya, you were erased. There's a difference." Her chest tightened. She looked away, blinking hard. The hanger held them gently. Then her expression shifted, alert, listening. "You hear that?" she whispered. Collins froze, ears straining. Outside, footsteps approached, more than one pair, purposeful, not rushed, not casual. Just deliberate. Collins straightened. Maya stepped away from the aircraft, instincts igniting beneath her skin. 4 years hadn't dulled them. If anything, they'd sharpened. 3 men entered the hangar, badges displayed, posture rigid. Not security, not local command. Suit jackets. Intelligence. The lead agent spoke. "Captain Reynolds, we need you to come with us." Not a request. Collins stepped forward. "General Tate authorized." "This isn't local command," the agent cut in. "This is federal." Maya studied them. Their voices smelled of protocol, but their eyes tasted like something colder, something careful, something territorial. "Am I being detained?" she asked calmly. "For your protection," the lead agent replied. She raised an eyebrow. "Protection from whom?" The man didn't blink. "From those who don't want the truth you uncovered to spread." A chill crept up Collins' spine. Maya's jaw flexed. "Where are you taking me?" "A secure location," the agent answered, "for debriefing." Collins stepped closer to her. "Maya." "It's all right," she said. Because she recognized something in their posture. They weren't here to bury her quietly. "Not yet." She nodded. "Let me grab something." She reached into the cockpit ladder, retrieving the small shadow badge, thumb tracing its engraved letters. She slipped it into her pocket, not for memory. "For armor." As they escorted her out, Collins called after her. "Whatever happens, I'm not done fighting." She didn't look back. "I know." The SUV ride was long and dark, no windows in the rear compartment. She sat alone, hands resting lightly on her knees, not clenched, not shaking. Just still. She had learned patience from silence. After what felt like an hour, the door opened. She stepped out into a low-profile intelligence annex. No signage, no windows visible from the outside. Inside, the hallways were narrow, sterile, white. She was guided to a room. Small table, 2 chairs, smart glass panels. The agents left. Alone again. But not afraid. She learned the most dangerous rooms were never physical. They entered one by one, 2 men, 1 woman. None introduced themselves. She didn't ask. The woman spoke first, calm, clinical. "You understand the significance of what you brought forward?" "Yes." "Do you understand the political weight?" "Yes." "Do you understand the personal risk?" Her gaze lifted steady. "I've been living that risk for 4 years." The woman nodded slightly, respect or acknowledgement. The first man placed a file on the table. "The transmissions you recorded, they involve more than just Drake." Maya didn't flinch. "I assumed." He slid a page toward her. It showed names, agencies, foreign vendors. Her breath sharpened, not shock. "Recognition." "I intercepted only 1 transmission," she said. "I didn't know where it connected." "You caught 1 thread of a much larger weave," the second man said, "and you were marked for removal because of it." She leaned back, exhaling slowly. "Then why am I here now?" "Because you're useful," the woman replied bluntly, "and because we may need more than the drive." Maya stared at her. "What more?" "Your memory." The word felt intrusive, but not wrong. She had trained her mind as fiercely as her hands. She remembered flight paths, signal patterns, frequencies no longer used. "You think I can trace what he started," she said. "We think you already have," the woman replied. Silence settled. Then Maya whispered, "You're not just verifying my evidence. You're inviting me into the investigation." "We're inviting you into your truth," the first man said. Her pulse steadied. She saw it now. They didn't fully trust her, but they needed her. She knew something they couldn't guess, something Drake never realized she caught, something bigger than planes or codes. They wanted her memory because she hadn't just recorded transmissions. She had decoded a pattern. She could see how the pieces linked, threads crossing borders, trade agreements masking espionage, training exchanges hiding data smuggling. She had seen it, and she knew where it led. But she also knew danger hid behind truth. Her voice dropped to a hush. "This is bigger than the Air Force, isn't it?" The woman nodded. "Yes." Her blood chilled. Another breath. "Who can I trust?" Maya asked. The woman answered with painful honesty. "No one completely." Maya closed her eyes. She had feared that. She had expected it. And still she had hoped. Her fingers drifted to the pocket where her shadow badge rested, cold metal beneath her skin, a silent reminder. Identity is not given. It is chosen. When she opened her eyes, something inside had shifted, not anger, not fear. "Resolve. Tell me what you need," she said. All three agents leaned in, just slightly. Because they felt it too. Her return hadn't ended the story. It had only begun. Hours later they released her, silent corridors, guarded doors, escorted vehicles. She stepped out into the night, unaware of where exactly she stood. The desert air felt colder than before, lonelier. A lone sedan waited. Her escort opened the door, speaking softly. "Take you home." She hesitated. "There is no home." The escort's eyes held sympathy, not pity. "Wherever you're safe becomes home." She slid into the back seat, the door shut, the world outside blurred as they drove. Maya leaned her head against the window, watching shadows roll across desert asphalt. For the first time since the dogfight, exhaustion seeped into her bones, not physical. Emotional. She had waited years for the truth to surface. Now that it had, she found herself standing at the edge of something bigger, something deeper, something she wasn't sure she wanted but couldn't walk away from. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Hangar 4, midnight, come alone." Her heart tightened. No signature. No threat. Just an invitation. Arguably more dangerous. She typed nothing back. Didn't ask who. Didn't ask why. Because she already knew. Some truths don't wait. And some ghosts don't sleep. The car slowed at the base housing entrance. She stepped out, watched the vehicle disappear into darkness. She didn't go inside, didn't change, didn't rest. Midnight wasn't far. She walked. As she approached the hangar, shadows stretched long. The desert breeze whispered, cold and dry. Hangar 4 stood open. Lights off. She stepped inside silently, breath controlled, muscles loose but ready. Close the door. A voice quiet, familiar. She froze. Then obeyed. The door slid shut behind her with a dull metallic sigh. Her eyes adjusted. A figure stepped from behind the F-22's wing. Not Drake. Not Collins. Someone she hadn't expected to see again. Someone she believed lost in those 17 minutes. Someone whose presence meant only one thing. The truth was deeper than betrayal. And she hadn't been alone in the dark. Why did her breath vanish before she even saw his face? The figure stood half-veiled in the dim shadows of the hangar, the damaged F-22 hulking between them like a wounded guardian. The metal smelled of oil, heat, and something sharper, memory. Maya didn't move, didn't speak, didn't blink, because her heart had recognized him before her eyes did. He stepped forward, slow, hesitant, like he wasn't sure if he was welcome in her world anymore. When the light caught his face, time twisted. "Ethan." Her voice barely held itself together. Captain Ethan Hale. Her former wingman. The man who vanished during the same mission that destroyed her life. He looked older, more worn, more lined with silence, but unmistakably him. His flight suit wasn't regulation. It looked patched, rough, stripped of identifying marks, as if he'd been running or hiding. Seeing him felt like being struck across the chest by the past. "You're alive," she whispered. He exhaled, something between relief and grief. "So are you." She swallowed, eyes burning. "You disappeared," she said. "You never came back." He nodded. "I know." Something inside her twisted, rage tangled with longing, betrayal tangled with relief. She stepped toward him, fists curling. "You left me," she breathed, voice cracking. "You just left me." He didn't defend himself, didn't raise his voice, just stood there, absorbing the weight of her accusation as though he'd carried it every day since. "I didn't have a choice," he said quietly. Her laugh came out sharp, painful. "We always have a choice." "No," he said, "not that day." She stared, waiting, demanding. His eyes flicked to the jet behind her, then back to her. "They told me you died," he said. "They told everyone." Her breath caught. "They said your jet went down, that there was no wreckage, no signal. They said you never came back." She shook her head slowly, disbelief spreading warm and cold all at once. "They told me the same about you." His jaw clenched. "And while you were being court-martialed," he said, "I was off the map fighting just to stay alive." Silence thickened between them. Everything she thought she knew about that mission, about betrayal, abandonment, shifted beneath her feet. "I tried to contact you," he said. "I tried to send proof, I tried to return, but someone very high made sure I couldn't." Her heart pounded. "You intercepted Drake's transmission," he said. "It was meant to disappear you." Her eyes widened. Ethan stepped closer, not threatening, but close enough that she could see the exhaustion in his face, the loneliness. "Maya, you weren't the only target." She felt a weight drop inside her, dark, cold. "What do you mean?" "I wasn't supposed to survive," he whispered. "Neither were you." A chill swept through her. He reached into a hidden inner pocket and unfolded a small piece of ragged paper, creased, stained, but intact. He handed it to her. She hesitated before taking it. On the page, coordinates. Not from their flight path. Coordinates from a location miles off course. "Where did you go?" she asked. "Where they forced me," he said. "They jammed my controls, rerouted my avionics. I fought it, but I didn't win." His voice softened, almost ashamed. "I crashed." Her eyes widened. "I spent weeks crawling through desert, broken. Alone. No help came because no one was looking for me." She felt her throat tighten. The thought of him, bleeding and abandoned under scorching sun, clawed at her chest. "They wiped the mission logs," he said. "Changed the data. They made it look like I peeled off voluntarily, that I abandoned formation. They turned me into a ghost." Her pulse sped. "So when you showed up in the courtroom, ready to speak," she whispered. He met her eyes, pain locked in his gaze. "I never made it to that room." Her breath hitched. She remembered that day, waiting for him, believing he would speak, believing he would save her, and then nothing, no appearance, no explanation. She thought he'd abandoned her. "They took me," he said, "somewhere I couldn't be seen, couldn't speak. They interrogated me for weeks, wanted to know if I'd sent anything out." Her pulse hammered. "Did you?" she asked. Yes, he said, to you. Her chest caved. Through your secondary encryption channel, but you never responded. I assumed you never got it. She felt her knees weaken. I didn't, she whispered. They must have intercepted it before it reached me. Ethan nodded slowly. I figured that out too late. Silence fell again, this time heavier. She took a step back, trying to breathe through the flood of emotions. You're telling me, she said slowly, that we were both framed. He nodded. For the same reason. Her voice felt like gravel. What reason? To buy silence, he said. To bury everything below classification. To protect the people selling tactical data, people far above Drake. Her blood ran cold. Ethan lowered his voice. He wasn't the mastermind, Maya. He was just a link. Her heartbeat turned hollow. More than betrayal. More than corruption. This was systemic. How did you survive? She asked. He shrugged, a broken motion. Luck and knowing how to disappear. How long have you been gone? 4 years, he said. Same as you. She stared at him, studying the man, the ghost, the memory. His hair was longer, beard rough, scar crossing his left temple fresh enough to mark suffering, old enough to mark survival. You could have come sooner, she said, voice trembling. No, he said, not until today. Her eyes narrowed. Why today? Because for 4 years there was nothing I could do, no move I could make without drawing fire. I'd be killed before I could speak. He paused. But when you flew today. His eyes softened, something like pride buried deep. You shook the earth. Someone showed their hand by trying to shut you down. Someone exposed themselves just by reacting. You lit the fuse, he said. Now they can't hide the explosion. Her thoughts spun. Hundreds of questions clawed at her chest. How did you know I'd come here at midnight? He hesitated, then spoke with quiet truth. Because this is where you go when everything falls apart. Her breath caught. He knew her. Still. Too well. I've watched you, he admitted. From afar I couldn't reach out, it would have killed us both, but I never left. Her pulse trembled. You've been here, she whispered. He nodded. Not on base, but close. I moved with you. Wherever they reassigned you, I followed. I waited. For what? For the moment you chose to fight again. Emotion surged so hard she had to look away. So what now? She asked. Ethan stepped beside her, facing the jet. Now, he said, we finish what they tried to bury. She shook her head. You don't understand, the intelligence officers. They can't protect you, he said, not from the real architect. Who? He looked at her, and she felt an old dread climb her spine. The same dread she felt during those 17 missing minutes. Drake was answering to someone above him, Ethan whispered. Someone with reach, someone inside the Pentagon, someone with access to black-budget tech. Her mouth went dry. They used our jets, he continued, not just to attack foreign assets, but to trade information with them. And when we stumbled onto it, they tried to wipe us. Her hands trembled. How do you know? She whispered. He held her gaze. Because I saw him. She froze. Who? Her voice barely carried. Ethan swallowed. The man Drake answered to. She felt her pulse in her throat. I don't know his real name, Ethan said. Only his code designation. She stared, afraid to breathe. Rook. The name slid through her mind like ice. She whispered it back. Rook. Something about it felt familiar. Wrongly familiar. He's high clearance, Ethan said, buried deep. He controls special access programs, flight testing, tactical data, everything. Maya felt nausea rise. She steadied herself against the wing. Then coming here, she whispered, was dangerous. A faint smile ghosted Ethan's lips. Everything after that mission was dangerous. She shook her head. No, I mean for you, if they know you're alive. Oh, he said, voice low. They know. Her breath stilled. They just haven't decided whether you're more valuable dead or alive. A slow realization sank in. He wasn't warning her about danger. He was warning her about pursuit. They'll come for both of us, he said. Her jaw tightened. So we run. No. He turned toward her fully, eyes steady. We fight. Hope flickered, small, fragile, but alive. She held his gaze. I can't do this alone. He shook his head. You never were. Her breath trembled. For the first time in years, she didn't feel alone in the war she didn't choose. Then he stepped closer, voice barely above a whisper. There's something you didn't see in those 17 minutes, he said. Something I didn't tell anyone. She swallowed. What? His eyes darkened, haunted. You weren't the only one who went dark. She stared. We weren't just intercepted, he said. We were redirected. Her eyes widened. To where? He looked away, eyes drifting toward the desert beyond the hangar. To a place that shouldn't exist. Cold air rushed up her spine. What was there? For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then, another F-22. Her heart stopped. But it wasn't ours. Silence cracked the room. Maya felt the ground slip beneath her. You're saying? Yes, he whispered. Someone outside our command was flying U.S. tactical jets, under our radar, running operations we were never meant to see. Her voice broke. Then what happened that day? Wasn't an accident. He met her gaze. It was cleanup. Everything blurred, the walls, the floor, her breath. They didn't just try to erase us, he said. They tried to replace us. Her pulse pounded in her ears. And now that you're back in the sky. His voice lowered to a chilling whisper. They'll come to finish the job. She inhaled sharply, fear and fury swirling. But they still don't know the truth, he said. She whispered, what truth? Ethan stepped closer, voice barely audible. Shadow, you weren't the only one who survived those 17 minutes. The hangar lights flickered, the desert wind hissed through the cracks. How many? She breathed. Ethan's answer was a ghost. More than us. Her skin chilled. They're out there, he said, alive, hunted, scattered, waiting. Waiting for what? He looked at her, eyes steady. For someone to lead them. Her breath snapped inward. No, she whispered. No, I'm no leader, You're the only one who came back and still chose to fly. She closed her eyes, pain, fear, and duty ripping her in opposite directions. You were erased, he said, but you didn't disappear. He reached into his suit and placed a small card in her hand. Coordinates. Far from here. A quiet location. Hidden. Go, he said. Her pulse raced. What about you? I'll draw fire, he said. They think I'm rogue, they won't expect to. No, she said, I'm not leaving you again, not after. You have to, he whispered. Because if only one of us gets caught. He looked straight into her eyes. It's better it's me. Her voice shook. That's not fair. He smiled faintly. Nothing about this ever was. Silence held them together, heartbeats echoing louder than words. Then, a soft chime sounded outside. Headlights swept across the hangar. Ethan's face tensed. They found me, he whispered. Her pulse exploded. How? She breathed. They always find us, he said. He grabbed her shoulder firm, urgent. Listen, he said. If they take me, do not follow, go to the coordinates, trust no one. Ethan. He pressed something into her hand, small, metal, warm. A second badge. Shadow. Her breath caught. I kept it, he whispered, for when you were ready. Her throat closed. I thought you were dead, she said. I was, he whispered. Until you flew again. Boots thundered outside. Voices. Shouting. Orders. Maya grabbed his arm, desperate. Don't go, she said, voice breaking. Not again. He touched her face, gentle, brief. I'll find you, he said. Then he slipped into the shadows, just as the doors burst open. Agents flooded the hangar. Lights blazed. Weapons raised. Maya Reynolds, a voice shouted, step away from the aircraft. But she was already reaching for the night. Because the ghost who vanished once had just vanished again. And this time, she would not let him disappear alone. The sky waited. And so did the truth. Why did she run toward danger when everyone else shouted for her to stop? Orders echoed behind her, sharp and frantic, but her body was already in motion. The hangar shook under the boots of armed agents pouring in, their flashlights slicing across metal and shadow. She ducked behind the wing of the damaged F-22, sliding low, breath tight against her ribs. The jet loomed above like a guardian beast, silent, heavy, familiar. Voices boomed. Secure the perimeter. Reynolds is inside. Move, move. But the one voice she strained for was gone. Ethan had slipped into the dark cracks of the hangar only seconds before the storm broke, and somehow she knew he was still close, not running blindly, moving with purpose. He always did. She held her breath, every muscle coiled. If they found her now, she'd be detained again, this time with no chance at escape. And Ethan, wouldn't make it off the base at all. She pressed her back to the wing, letting her heartbeat slow, grounding herself in the familiar scent of metal and grease. The F-22 felt like the only friend she had left inside these walls. Something inside her whispered, "You should have left with him when you had the chance." She ignored it. Footsteps scanned the concrete. Flashlights swarmed like predatory eyes. A beam skimmed inches from her boot. She froze. Nothing on the east side. Check behind the fuselage. She's here somewhere. Too close. Too many. She needed distraction, not confrontation. A small toolbox lay nearby, left open by the maintenance crew. Tools glittered inside. Familiar weight, familiar shape. Her hand slipped silently around a metal wrench. The agent's footsteps converged. 3, maybe 4. Coming from both sides. Pinned. She closed her eyes. Became still. Waited. A command snapped through the hangar. Set up thermal. Her breath hitched. Thermal would reveal her in seconds. She didn't have seconds. Her hand rose, wrench secured in her palm. She spotted the nearest overhead light, thin metal casing, exposed wiring. She exhaled. Then threw. The wrench hit the casing hard. Sparks burst. The light cracked. And the whole row blew dark. Shouts rattled the hangar. What was that? Lights down. She's moving. In the chaos, Maya slipped deeper into shadow, hugging the underside of the jet's wing, moving like smoke. She slid along the metal ribs, fingers tracing rivets she once memorized as a mechanic. No one knew this aircraft's skin like she did. It guided her as though it wanted her hidden. Behind her, agents scattered, chasing noise instead of silence. She slipped out the back service exit, small, forgotten, unlocked. Night swallowed her. The desert air outside was cold and vast. The base stretched beneath a moonless sky, buildings, barracks, runways glowing faintly in the dark. Sirens pulsed through the distance, but here, only wind. She jogged low between shadows, slow breaths. heart pulling her toward the only place she could think Ethan would go. The old training range. He once told her, "If everything goes to hell, you go where no one looks anymore." He meant places the Air Force considered done, dead, retired. Places where ghosts of training missions lived on in dust and rust. She moved down a narrow service road, past silent barracks, toward the fence that marked restricted range. No headlights, no footsteps, no sound except her boots crunching gravel. As she ran, her mind spun, faster than her feet. The badge in her pocket, the second shadow, felt like a heartbeat against her thigh. Ethan carried it all this time. Why? For her, for a future he believed might still come. She wasn't sure which terrified her more. That he believed she would fly again, or that he waited for her to lead. A gate appeared dark, unmanned. She slipped through a gap cut into the fence. Fresh, clean, recent. He'd passed this way. She followed. The desert beyond was moon-black, scattered with old concrete pads and rusted equipment from training days no one remembered. Shrub brushes trembled in the wind. Somewhere far off, an engine hummed, faint, low. She stopped, listening. That hum. Steady. Rhythmic. Not a jet. A generator. Her pulse jumped. She followed the sound, weaving through forgotten structures until she found a low hill. The hum came from behind it. She crouched, climbed, and peered over. Below lay an outpost. Small. Makeshift. Half buried into the earth. Generators. Camouflage netting. A tent. A satellite dish pointed skyward. Her breath caught. Someone had been living here. And not just surviving, working. She descended the hill slowly, eyes scanning every shadow. At the base of the hill stood a rusted storage shed. Its door was cracked open, faint light spilling out. Her fingers hovered near the latch. Then she pushed the door. Slow. Silent. Inside. Maps covered the walls. Flight paths. Coordinates. Photographs. Names written in red marker. Some crossed out. Some circled. A war room. Her stomach tightened. The strings connecting everything formed a web, a network she didn't fully see until now. In the center hung a map of the western United States. One note pinned to Nevada simply read, SEDS. Her eyes narrowed. Seeds of what? Beneath it, photos of pilots, men, women, young, older, their faces solemn. Some she recognized. Old squadron mates. Others unknown. At the bottom of the board, status. Missing. Missing. Confirmed dead. Missing. Unconfirmed. Unknown. Her chest tightened. These weren't random disappearances. These were patterns. Connected. Planned. She stepped closer. One photo made her freeze. Ethan. Across his face. Piariasuamidi dead. Beside his name, a date. 4 years ago. The same day they vanished. Her throat closed. Then her eyes dropped to the note pinned beside his photo. Written in his handwriting. If Shadow survives, follow the truth together. Her knees weakened. He had believed, even when she didn't. Maya. She spun. Ethan stood in the doorway, chest rising with adrenaline, not fear. You found me, he said softly. She stared at the board, then at him. What is all this? He stepped inside, shutting the door quietly. The truth, he said. No, she whispered, this is more than truth, this is war. He nodded slowly. Yes. She moved to a rough wooden table where a small box lay open. Inside sat a device, military grade, unfamiliar. "What's this?" she asked. "Signal scrambler," he said. "Keeps them from tracking transmissions. Took me years to build." Her eyes drifted to the red circles drawn on the map. Are these other pilots?" "Yes. They're alive." "Some," he replied, "hidden, scattered." "Why didn't they come forward?" she demanded. Ethan exhaled. "Because every time someone surfaced, they vanished again." She swallowed hard. "What do they want from us? Why keep us alive if we're threats?" He hesitated. "I don't think they wanted us alive at all." Her heart chilled. "They just failed to clean up." She closed her eyes. The truth was worse than betrayal. Worse than erasure. It was negligence paired with power. "Where are the others?" she asked. His gaze flicked to the far wall, another map worldwide, dots scattered across continents, each marked with a symbol. But only one symbol repeated. A rook chess piece. Her skin crawled. "The reach is global," Ethan said. "This is more than espionage, more than treason." "They're building something," she whispered. He nodded. "And they're using stolen tactical knowledge to do it." Her eyes narrowed at the symbol, the rook. "Rook," she whispered. Ethan's voice dropped. "Yes." He stepped closer, placing a USB in her palm. "This is everything I've gathered, 4 years' worth." She stared at it. "Why give it to me?" "Because you're the only one who can get it out." Her breath caught. "No," she said. "No, Ethan, I'm no hero. I barely held myself together. I'm not what you think I am." He looked at her with a softness that hurt. "You flew today. That doesn't make me a leader." "It makes you dangerous to them," he said, "and that matters." Her voice cracked. "I don't want to be dangerous. I just wanted my life back." He nodded slowly. "So did I." Silence swallowed them. She looked around the room, maps, photos, dossiers, coded notes. Every line connected to another. Together, they formed a single story. Someone within U.S. Command was building a private shadow network, pilots, data, aircraft, hidden inside the military machine itself, selling information, running black missions, eliminating anyone who discovered the truth. And she'd stumbled into the middle. The weight felt unbearable. She wanted to run, to disappear, to be Maya the mechanic again. But that woman was gone. Ethan placed a hand over hers, grounding her. "You survived 4 years of silence," he said, "not because you were hiding, but because you were preparing." She shook her head. "I wasn't preparing, I was trying to survive." "Exactly," he said, "and now you're ready." She pulled away, packing the cramped room, breath shaking. "Why me? Why not someone stronger, someone with rank?" "Because they erased you," he said. "They can't track what they don't see." His voice softened. "And because you care." That stopped her cold. Her chest tightened. He'd always known where she was vulnerable. She turned sharply toward him. "What about you?" she asked. "You'll be hunted." He shrugged, eyes tired but steady. "I already am. You can't do this alone." He met her gaze. "That's why I found you." Her heart ached, years of grief and confusion pouring through a crack that had never healed. Voices suddenly echoed outside, distant but approaching. She stiffened. Ethan grabbed her arm, eyes flashing. "They found us." She felt a familiar jolt, fear sharpened by purpose. "How?" "I don't know," he muttered, "but we need to move." He grabbed a canvas bag stuffed with files and gear. Maya pocketed the USB. They darted out the back, slipping into the darkness as vehicles crested the hill, headlights cutting the desert. Ethan shoved a small device into her hands. "Tracker jammer," he said. "Pull the pin, drop it. It'll scramble signals for 90 seconds." She nodded. Behind them, black SUVs roared into the outpost. Voices shouted, "Two signatures moving. Perimeter, don't lose them." Maya and Ethan sprinted through the sand. Her lungs burned, dust stung her eyes, the desert stretched endless. They reached an old drainage tunnel, half collapsed. Inside, Ethan urged. They crawled through just as lights flooded the ground behind them. Maya pulled the jammer pin. The device blinked red. She dropped it. A soft pop pulsed behind them. Static ripped the night. Voices scrambled. Signal lost. Where did they go? Find them. Ethan and Maya crawled through broken concrete, emerging behind a ridge. They collapsed into cover, gasping. She turned to him. "What's the endgame?" she whispered. His eyes were haunted. "There isn't one," he said. "Not yet." Her voice shook. "Then what are we fighting for?" He looked at her like she was the only thing still real. "For the truth," he said, "and for everyone they erased." He paused. "And maybe for ourselves." Her throat tightened. Somewhere behind them, engines roared. The hunt had begun. Ethan turned to her, urgent but calm. "We head to the coordinates. We find the others. Then we decide our next move." She inhaled, exhaled, then nodded. Because it no longer mattered whether she wanted this war. The war wanted her. And she would not run from the sky again. Why did silence feel louder than gunfire as they crawled beneath the earth? The drainage tunnel smelled of rust, dust, and old rain that had never reached the desert floor. Maya's palms scraped against concrete as she crawled forward in the dark. Ethan guided her ahead, his silhouette barely visible, breath controlled, movements precise. She had forgotten what it felt like to follow someone she trusted. Forgotten what it felt like not to carry every decision alone. Outside, the night roared with pursuit. Engines growled. Searchlights swept the sand. Shouting voices stabbed through the darkness. They couldn't have gone far. "Fan out. Thermals now." Ethan's whisper drifted back through the tunnel. "Keep moving. They'll sweep overhead before they come down." She nodded, though he couldn't see. Her heartbeat thundered, not fear, focus sharpened to a blade. Survival wasn't new. What was new was having someone beside her again. After minutes that felt like miles, the tunnel widened. Ethan reached up, pushing a metal grate. It resisted, then gave way with a soft groan. He lifted himself out. Maya followed. They emerged in a dry wash, a shallow ravine carved into desert rock. The moon finally broke through clouds, painting their faces in silver and shadow. Maya blinked at the sudden openness. Ethan scanned the horizon. "There," he said quietly, pointing. In the distance, a rusted ATV sat half buried in sand, camouflaged beneath tattered netting. He jogged toward it, motioning her along. "You hid this?" she asked. "A while ago," he said. "Backup plan." "How many backup plans do you have?" He smirked, half pride, half ghost. "Enough to still be here." He tore off the netting, revealing a patched engine and modified storage racks. The keys were already in the ignition. "Of course." He swung a leg over the seat. Maya climbed on behind him. Before she could settle, Ethan passed her a small metal device shaped like a ring. "What's this?" she asked. "Emergency beacon," he said. "Short range, use only if we get separated." She slipped it over her finger. It hummed, a faint pulse sinking to her touch. He looked forward, eyes narrowing at the open stretch ahead. "Hold tight." She did. He gunned the engine. The ATV tore through sand, kicking dust into night. Maya felt the vibration rattle her bones, wind cutting through her clothes, stars streaking overhead like cold fire. Behind them, spotlights crawled toward the ravine. "They know," she said. "They always know," Ethan replied. Her chest tightened. "Then how do you sleep?" with one eye open. He said it lightly, too lightly, and she wondered how many nights he'd spent listening for footsteps, knowing silence might mean death or worse. They rode for nearly an hour, over dunes, through dry riverbeds, across jagged rock. Even under the stars, the desert felt endless, unforgiving. Ethan didn't hesitate. Every turn seemed deliberate. "You memorized the terrain," she said softly. "I had time," he answered. She felt guilt rise bitter. "While I was wiping engines, you were running for your life." He didn't respond, just drove. But his silence wasn't blame, just truth. Eventually, the ATV sputtered, low on fuel. Ethan eased it to a stop behind a cluster of boulders. The desert stretched quiet again. "We walk from here," he said. She scanned the horizon. "Is this where the coordinates lead?" "Almost," he said. "Another mile." They set off on foot, cutting through rock and scrub. Maya's legs burned, lungs tight, but she kept pace. She had marched through worse. Alone, broken, carrying the weight of silence. But tonight, she wasn't alone. After 15 minutes, Ethan stopped, raising a fist. Maya froze beside him. Ahead, nestled against rock, was a small cave. Dark, silent, unremarkable. "This is it," she whispered. He nodded. Maya stared. "Doesn't look like much." "That's the point," he said. He approached the entrance and pressed his hand to the rock. Not random, precise. Maya noticed faint etchings in the stone, almost invisible. Coordinates. A single word beneath. SHDW. Shadow. Her pulse jumped. Ethan tapped a sequence against the etching. 4 knocks, pause, 3 knocks. Silence. Then, a soft mechanical click. The cave wall shifted inward, revealing a narrow passage lit by low amber lights. Maya's breath caught. "Welcome," Ethan murmured, "to what's left of us." They stepped inside. The passage curved downward, swallowing them. The air cooled. Light reflected off smooth stone walls reinforced with steel ribs. Someone had built this carefully, quietly, over time. Maya felt a strange recognition. Not of the place, but of the purpose. Survival. At the end of the corridor, a large chamber opened. Screens flickered on metal racks. Cots lined one wall. Maps covered another. Crates of gear, food, weapons, medical kits were stacked neatly. But what made her stop were the people. 4 of them. 3 men. 1 woman. Standing. Waiting. Pilots. Not uniforms. Just worn clothes, determined faces. Eyes that carried the weight of being hunted too long. One stepped forward. A tall man with graying beard, broad shoulders, and a limp. His gaze settled on her, unreadable. "You made it," he said. His voice was gravel and rain. Maya didn't know him, not personally. But she knew his face. Colonel James Braddock. Former test pilot. Declared dead 3 years ago, training accident. Except he wasn't dead. She swallowed. "Sir." He shook his head. "Don't call me sir, not here, not anymore." She nodded. Her eyes drifted to the others. A young man barely in his 20s. A woman whose hands trembled slightly, though her eyes were fire. Another older man, sharp-eyed, silent. All wore small silver badges. Shadow. Her throat tightened. Colonel Braddock spoke. "When Ethan said he found you, we didn't believe him. Thought it was a trap." Ethan shrugged. "I told you she'd come." Maya felt heat behind her eyes. She didn't belong here. She didn't deserve their faith. Braddock studied her, not with curiosity, but with recognition. "I watched your dogfight today," he said. "Even from a distance it was something." She looked away. "I was just trying to save the base." "No," Braddock said quietly. "You were reclaiming yourself." Those words hit deeper than they should. He gestured to the group. These are the ones who survived, the ones who know the truth, or enough of it to be dangerous. The young pilot stepped forward first. Name, Reed, flew Raptors out of Langley, went dark after our squadron was reassigned. Maya frowned, reassigned. Reed nodded grimly. They said we'd be attending advanced training. Instead, we were ambushed. The woman spoke next, voice shaky. Some didn't make it. Maya looked her in the eyes. I'm sorry. The woman nodded once. We're past sorry now, we're here to fight. Maya swallowed hard. The older silent man finally spoke, low, steady. They took everything from us, but they didn't take who we are. His badge read, SHW-09. Maya looked down at the badge Ethan had given her. Shadow. Braddock stepped closer. We've been gathering intel, slowly, quietly. Ethan's been doing most of the field work at great risk, but we can't move without someone who can fly. His gaze sharpened. You flew again today, publicly, boldly. They know you're back, they'll hunt you harder now. Ethan added quietly, which means we have to move faster. Maya felt the room closing in. She was exhausted, overwhelmed, conflicted. I didn't come here to lead anything, she said. Braddock nodded, we know. Then why bring me? Reed's voice rose, young but fierce. Because you're the only one who flew against them and lived. Maya shook her head, I got lucky. No, Ethan said, you were ready. The trembling woman spoke. When we lost everything, we broke. We ran, you didn't, you stayed. You survived in plain sight. Maya felt her chest compress. Braddock stepped closer. They erased you, and you stayed right where they could see you, a ghost in the open. That's more courage than any of us managed, the quiet man said. Maya's voice trembled. You make it sound like I chose any of this. Braddock held her gaze. You chose to fly today. Silence strangled the room. The truth hurt. She had chosen. Because she couldn't do anything else. Because something inside her, the part they tried to kill, never died. She looked at Ethan. His expression was soft. Not pushing. Just believing. Too much belief. Too much trust. She broke away, turning toward the far wall, hands on her knees. She stared at a map pinned there, eyes unfocused. Lines crisscrossed continents, routes, signals, names. And again, everywhere. The rook symbol. She forced air into her lungs. What's the plan? She whispered. Braddock hesitated. There isn't one, not yet. She closed her eyes. Relief and dread tangled. What we need, he said, is a way in. Maya turned back to him. Into what? The program, he said. The one Rook is running, the one no one admits exists. Maya frowned. And how do you expect to gain access? Braddock's lips tightened. You. The word landed like a blow. Me, she said. You're the only pilot with legitimate clearance who wasn't flagged as dead, Braddock said. Your reinstatement is already in motion. The Pentagon will try to put you back into the system. Ethan added, and that's our door. Maya stepped back. No, I can't just walk into the Pentagon. They'll see me as a threat. Exactly, Braddock said. They'll keep you close, watch you, maybe even try to use you, and while they do, you gather intel. Her voice rose strained. That's suicide. Only if you go in blind, Braddock said, which is why you won't. Reed pointed to the map. We have locations, communications, patterns. We know more than you think. The woman added, but only you can get us the rest. Maya's heartbeat thrashed. I'm not a spy, she whispered. No, Braddock said. You're a pilot, and that's exactly why you can get close. She shook her head violently. I didn't come here to be a pawn in some shadow war. Ethan stepped toward her, gentle but firm. You came here because the truth brought you. His voice softened. You flew back into the sky not to save a base, but to save yourself. You came here tonight knowing you might die, not because you wanted a fight, but because you couldn't walk away. He paused. Don't stop now. She felt tears prick her eyes. Anger, fear. Love for a sky that took everything. Hate for a truth that demanded more. She whispered, I'm tired. The trembling woman nodded, tears brimming. We all are. Braddock placed a hand over his badge. But tired people still fight. Silence wrapped them. Then, footsteps echoed in the corridor. Light footsteps. Uneven. Rushed. Everyone tensed. A young boy no more than 12 appeared in the doorway, dust-covered, breathless. Braddock stiffened. What happened? The boy gasped. They found another safe house. Shock rippled. Where? Reed demanded. The boy's voice shook. In New Mexico. Maya felt her stomach drop. That's 2 states away, Ethan said. The boy nodded, tears filling his eyes. They're burning everything and taking survivors. Maya's blood ran cold. What about the pilots there? The boy swallowed. One escaped. Braddock leaned forward. Where is he now? The boy pointed. Slowly. Right at Maya. He's coming here. Maya froze. Ethan tensed. Braddock exhaled. Then we're out of time. Behind them, the screens lit up. An alert flashed red. Unidentified aircraft inbound. ETA 10 MINUTS. Reed's voice cracked. They found us. Siren screamed deep inside the mountain. Braddock turned to Maya. We move now. But Maya didn't move. She stared at the flashing screen, heart pounding, realizing. This wasn't escape. This was pursuit. And she was no longer running. She was being hunted. Because she wasn't just a survivor. She was a threat. The last quiet truth inside her whispered. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It simply acts. And as the alarms echoed deeper into the mountain, Maya finally understood. The sky hadn't called her back to remember who she was. It called her back to become more than she ever imagined. Why did the alarms feel quieter than her heartbeat? The chamber ignited in red pulses, warning lights flickering across the underground walls as if the mountain itself were panicking. Maya stood frozen for half a breath, just long enough to realize something she hadn't dared admit. Whatever was coming for her. Braddock snapped orders. Reed, secure the back tunnels. Ilara, pack comms. Silas, prep evac paths. The pilots scattered, moving with the grim choreography of people who had done this too many times already. People who understood that survival was a temporary privilege. Ethan grabbed Maya's arm. Listen to me. But she couldn't. Her feet felt rooted to the ground, eyes pinned to the blinking screen. Unidentified aircraft. ETA 0932. Time bleeding away. The boy, small, terrified, tugged at Braddock's sleeve. It's the same symbol, he whispered. The rook. Braddock stiffened. Maya's mouth dried. They wouldn't send a plane, she said softly, not after tracking the safe house by ground. Ethan's voice dropped. They would if they're impatient. She tore her eyes from the screen and stared at him. Or if they want it done quick, she whispered. He nodded. They're here to eliminate, not search. And suddenly she felt the old ache, the weight of cockpit silence, the cold calm that came just before combat. Except she wasn't flying this time. She was trapped beneath Earth. Braddock slapped a metal case on the table and popped the latches. Inside, 6 compact rifles and supplies. Take what you can carry, he ordered. Maya stared. Weapons felt wrong in her hands. She'd never been a ground fighter, never needed steel and bullets to defend herself. The sky had always been shield and sword. She hesitated. Ethan saw it. You don't have to shoot, he said gently, placing a hand on her shoulder. Just survive. She exhaled shakily. The mountain rumbled distant low, the kind of vibration that came from rotors, not footsteps. A helicopter. Large. Heavy. Not military standard. Something darker. They're coming in hard, Reed shouted. Braddock grabbed a pack and slung it over his shoulder. Everyone moves to secondary tunnel, he commanded. Now. They filed out, footsteps echoing down steel-laid corridors. The air grew colder, the lights dimmer. Maya felt her pulse sink with every step. The boy ran next to her, clutching a radio to his chest. She looked down. You're too young for this, she murmured. His lips trembled. I was too young when they came for my sister. Maya swallowed. Pain doesn't wait for age. It arrives when it wants. The tunnel ahead widened into a junction, 3 branching paths. Braddock halted. He opened a panel, pulling down a screen. On it, a live feed of the mountain exterior. A dark helicopter hovered near the ridge, silent against the night. The rook symbol gleamed on its side, white against matte black. Ethan muttered, they sent rookies. Maya frowned, rookies. Rook's enforcers, he said. Trained ghosts, fast, quiet, no insignia, no hesitation. The helicopter deployed figures, 4, 5, then 6, descending on ropes with lethal grace. Their weapons were compact, suppressed. Their visors reflected moonlight like eyes that didn't blink. Braddock cursed under his breath. Reed's face drained of color. They'll sweep the entrance in under 2 minutes. Braddock nodded. Then we move deeper. The group turned down a narrow tunnel, their shadows stretched thin across rough walls. Maya kept pace, her senses sharpening. Every sound mattered, the scrape of boots, the hiss of breath, the distant pulse of helicopter blades fading into silence. They reached another chamber, smaller, colder. A generator hummed weakly in the corner. Sela's tossed glow sticks, bathing the room in pale green. Ethan motioned to a steel hatch on the far side. That leads into the canyons, he said. Natural cover. Maya nodded, but her attention drifted to the map strewn across a workbench. More lines, more names, more crossed-out pilots. So many silenced. So many erased. Anger flickered under her ribs, quiet, slow, patient, like a candle refusing to die. Braddock turned to the group. Take only what you need. Leave everything else. If they find this place, we can't let them trace us further. Reed forced a grin that didn't reach his eyes. They'll find ashes, maybe a sandwich. Even in fear, humor fought for space. Humanity always gasps before it breaks. Maya scanned the room, picking up a headset. Standard issue, modified. Ethan saw her examining it. It's encrypted, he said. Short range, safe. She slipped it over her head and adjusted the mic. The boy tugged at her sleeve again. You fly, don't you? She blinked. I used to, she murmured. His dark eyes shone with something heavy, something like hope. My sister flew too, he said. Maya's heart stumbled. What was her name? Amira. Maya swallowed. Where is she now? The boy's voice cracked. Missing. Maya knelt, placing a hand on his shoulder. We'll find her, she whispered. He nodded, too brave for his age, and squeezed her hand before letting go. Footsteps pounded down the corridor. Sela's reappeared, breath ragged. They breached the north entrance, 2 minutes until contact. Ethan cursed. Braddock lifted his rifle. We hold them long enough to get everyone into the canyon. Once there, we split into smaller groups. Reed nodded. Scatter, make them chase ghosts. Maya felt her stomach knot. Splitting up means losing support, she whispered. It means staying alive, Braddock corrected. Big targets are easy to kill, shadows survive. Ethan locked eyes with her. You stay with me. She didn't argue. Silas pointed toward the hatch. That route will take us through the canyon and out to dry flats. From there, radio quiet until safe. Reed inhaled sharply. A sudden echo boomed through the tunnels, metal against stone. The Rook enforcers were inside. Braddock gestured sharply. Move. The group streamed toward the hatch. Ethan kept one hand near Maya's back, not pushing, just close, like a silent promise. The hatch opened with a groan and cold air poured in. The canyon beyond was narrow, walls rising like jagged teeth under a starless sky, a ribbon of rock and shadow. Maya stepped through. But Braddock stopped. I'll hold them. Maya turned sharply. No. We need time, Braddock said. Someone has to give it. Reed froze, sir. Braddock cut him off. You keep them alive, that's an order. Silas opened his mouth to argue, but Braddock's stare ended it. A commander to the end. Ethan shook his head. One of us stays too. No, Braddock said. You lead, they trust you. Ethan's jaw clenched. Braddock stepped past him and placed a hand on Maya's shoulder. They stole your name, he said. Don't let them steal your reason. She didn't know what to say. Words caught in her throat like thorns. Braddock gave a faint, tragic smile. This was never about flying or fighting. It's about who you become when no one is watching. He turned, walking back into the dim corridor, rifle ready. Without another word. Reed choked on a breath. Silas backed through the hatch, pulling the boy with him. Ethan grabbed Maya's arm gently. We have to go. Her feet resisted. The way feet resist when leaving someone who mattered. Someone who saw you. But she went. Because if she stayed, Braddock's sacrifice meant nothing. The hatch slammed shut behind them. Silas spun a wheel lock until it jammed. Then they ran. The canyon swallowed them, narrow walls towering, silence pressing like a hand over their mouths. Maya glanced back. Just once. In time to see the first flash of gunfire flare behind the steel hatch. Braddock had made his stand. And they were still breathing because of it. She turned away, swallowing tears that had no place here. Not now. They moved fast, hugging walls, feet scattering dust. The canyon twisted, branching into forked paths. Ethan led without hesitation. How well do you know this? Maya whispered. More than my own name. She didn't ask how or why. There was no time for stories. Their breathing synced. Sharp quiet controlled. Reed jogged ahead, scouting turns. Silas and the woman, Alara, flanked the boy. Minutes blurred. The canyon split again, two paths. Reed paused. Left leads to the flats, right leads toward the foothills, higher ground. Ethan studied the sky, dark, unmoving. We need elevation. Reed hesitated. Flats get us to the safe trail faster. They'll expect that, Ethan said. Maya felt it too. They hunt pattern, she whispered. We break it. Reed nodded, right then. They veered toward the foothills, the canyon walls widening as they ascended. Loose stones skittered beneath their boots. Maya reached out, steadying the boy. You okay? He nodded, trembling. Ethan pointed ahead. Cave entrance, shelter. They slipped inside, breathless but alive. The cave was small, barely enough space for 6 bodies, but it was hidden, sheltered, silent. They crouched. Listened. Nothing. Then, a soft pop echoed in the canyon. Not gunfire. Flashbang. Reed's breath trembled. They're pushing deeper. Ethan nodded grimly. They're clearing every tunnel. They'll find the hatch soon. Alara's hand shook. Braddock. A hollow silence followed. Maya closed her eyes. Braddock once told her flying wasn't about winning. It was about not giving up until there was nothing left to give. He had given his last breath to buy them another. But grief had no time here. Survival demanded attention. Ethan motioned toward the far end of the cave, a narrow crack leading upward into the rock. Through there, he whispered. Reed raised a brow. You sure that's a path? Looks like a bad idea. Ethan smiled faintly. The best paths usually are. They squeezed through the crevice, scraping shoulders, dragging packs. Maya felt stone press against her spine, chest tightening through the narrow passage. She fought panic, slow, controlled breaths. When the crack opened again, they emerged onto a high ledge overlooking the canyon. A vast desert stretched below, endless sand and broken stone. We keep moving, Ethan said. Reed pointed north. Flats that way. If we angle west, we hit an old mining road, then maybe a town. Silas grunted, too exposed. Everything is exposed now, Alara said. Maya scanned the canyon floor. Nothing moved. Not yet. They continued along the ledge, single file, careful footsteps. The boy walked between Maya and Alara. Ethan led. Reed kept watch behind. The desert wind howled, cold, lonely. Halfway across the ridge, Ethan raised a fist. Halt. They dropped into crouches. Below, a shadow moved. One of the Rook enforcers stalked the canyon floor, slow, methodical. His visor scanned every crevice. Another figure appeared beside him. Two ghosts. Hunting. Reed whispered, how did they get out so fast? Ethan's voice was quiet steel. They didn't go in. They flanked outside, expected tunnel exits. Maya felt her chest tighten. Predictable prey. Predictable trap. The Rook enforcers paused, heads lifting slightly. Listening. Maya held her breath. The boy shook, tiny, silent sobs trembling in his chest. Maya reached out, cupping a hand over his, steadying him. Their heartbeats synced. Below, the enforcers turned away, moving deeper into the canyon. Silence returned. Ethan waited, then signaled move. They slipped along the ridge, faster now. Every step felt like borrowed time. Finally, the ledge curved, and the land opened into a sloping field of rock and scrub. Freedom, but too open. We run in pairs, Ethan said. 2-minute intervals, reduced signature. Reed nodded. I'll take Silas first. Maya squeezed the boy's shoulder. You stay with me. He nodded, face pale but steady. Reed and Silas darted into the open, small shapes swallowed by night. Minutes passed. No movement. No sound. Maya exhaled. Ethan nodded. You're next. She tightened her grip on the boy's hand. Stay low, no noise. They ran. The desert stretched, cold wind biting their skin. Maya counted her breath, soft, steady. The boy matched beside her. They reached a dry wash and slid behind a cluster of rocks. Maya pulled him down, scanning the ridge they'd left. Nothing. Ethan and Alara emerged next, moving fast. Reed waved from a higher rock safe. Maya felt relief loosen her chest. Just a fraction. Then, a spotlight tore through the night. Maya grabbed the boy, pushing him into the dirt. Ethan dove behind a ridge. Reed shouted. They found us. The spotlight swept the landscape, wide, hungry. A second helicopter roared above the canyon. Bigger than the first. Darker. Faster. Black rotors blurred against the night. Reed yelled. Scatter. Maya grabbed the boy's wrist and ran. Heart slamming. Legs burning. The helicopter banked, light chasing shadows across the wash. Silas fired a flare. Bright red streak into the sky. The helicopter swerved, spotlight jerked. Ethan shouted over comms, "Move." Maya sprinted, feet slipping in gravel. The boy tripped. Hit the ground hard. Maya skidded to him. "Up," she gasped. He tried, but his ankle twisted painfully. Tears filled his eyes. "I can't." Maya swept him into her arms. Heavy, small, desperate. And ran. The helicopter dove lower. Searchlight slicing toward them. Ethan turned. Saw them. And sprinted back, rifle raised. Maya this way. She followed, lungs burning, spotlight biting at their heels. They dove behind a boulder. The boy whimpered. Maya held him close. Ethan crouched beside them, breath ragged. "We need cover," he said, "now." Maya looked beyond them. The land sloping into jagged rock. No roads. No paths. Just survival. "We go south," she said. Ethan hesitated. "South leads nowhere." "Exactly," she said. "Nowhere is what keeps us alive." He stared at her. Then nodded. Together they lifted the boy and ran. Into the dark. Into the unknown. As the helicopter circled above. Searchlight stalking. Relentless. Sometimes the only way to survive the hunt is to refuse to be predictable. And as Maya vanished into the darkness, carrying a child who believed in her more than she believed in herself, she remembered something Braddock once said. The sky is not a gift. It is a question. Tonight she would learn what it meant to answer. Why did the night feel deeper than fear itself? The desert stretched endlessly beneath the moon, a sprawling canvas of stone and silence. Maya ran with the boy in her arms, muscles burning, breath sharp and uneven. Ethan stayed just ahead of her, guiding them through broken terrain. Low shrubs, jagged ridges, dry washes that bit their ankles. Behind them, the helicopter's spotlight carved long scars of light across the night. But their shadows moved faster. Every few seconds the beam swept past, too close, not enough to capture them, but enough to kill hope with every pass. Dust stung Maya's eyes. Sand slipped beneath her boots. Still she ran. The boy's fingers clutched the fabric of her sleeve. He wasn't crying. He didn't scream. He just held on, breathing short, sharp, painfully quiet. Brave without knowing why. Ethan slowed when they reached a steep drop of broken stone. He held out his arms. "Give him to me." She hesitated, instinct gripping her. The boy's arms held tight around her neck, as if letting go meant disappearing again. Ethan lowered his voice. "He'll be lighter in my arms. You take point." She finally nodded. The boy clung for another breath. Then released. Ethan lifted him effortlessly, cradling him against his chest. The boy's voice trembled. "Will they find us?" Ethan didn't lie. "Maybe. But we'll be gone first." He shifted the boy's weight. "Maya this way." They cut left, scrambling down the slope. Rocks slid underfoot, clattering loudly. Maya winced. Silence felt like the only weapon they had, and even that slipped away piece by piece. The helicopter's spotlight flicked back, dragging long and slow across the ridge above them. Searching, listening. Maya pressed her body close to dirt, motioning Ethan to do the same. They lay still, breath hidden against earth. The boy's small hand found hers. His grip was tight, trusting. It anchored her more than any mission ever had. The spotlight passed. Ethan nodded. They moved again. Maya led them into a narrow cut in the rock, a natural corridor winding deeper into the earth. The helicopter circled overhead but couldn't see into the canyon. For the first time, darkness was an ally. They slowed. The world quieted except for footsteps and breath. After several minutes, the terrain leveled. Ethan lowered the boy to his feet. The child tested his ankle, still tender, but he walked. Maya knelt to his eye level. "You okay?" He nodded. "Too fast. Too brave." She placed a hand on his cheek. "Stay close to me." The boy swallowed. "I'm not scared." Maya gave a soft, fragile smile. "It's okay to be." He blinked at that, surprised. As if no one had ever told him. As if survival meant silence. Ethan motioned them forward. They continued deeper into the canyon, walls narrowing, rising like broken teeth. A cold wind curled through the passage, whispers of forgotten things. Maya touched the rock, feeling ancient grooves, fossils long dead. A reminder that time swallowed everything eventually. Even war. Even fear. Ethan raised a hand, stopping them. He knelt, brushing dust aside. A faint metal glint reflected moonlight. A tripwire. He leaned closer. Not military standard. Custom built. Precision work. Maya's stomach tightened. "They're not just hunting," she whispered. "They planted these." Ethan nodded. They knew survivors would run. Maya scanned the path. "What now?" He studied the wire, then the canyon walls. "They expect straight movement, predictable lines." Maya understood. "We climb." Ethan pointed toward a jagged slope, almost vertical, dotted with shattered stones. "Up and over." The boy looked terrified. His ankle barely held him before. Now. Maya knelt again. "You trust me?" He hesitated only a moment. "Yes." She smiled softly. "Good, because we're going up." She slung him onto her back. Ethan assisted, then started up the slope, testing holds. Maya followed. The rock was cold, rough, every handhold cut into her palms, nails chipped, but she climbed steady, sure. Each pull reminded her of flight. The slow ascent before speed. The patient breath before rising. Halfway up, the helicopter circled back, searchlights sweeping across canyon walls. Maya pressed against the rock, heart hammering. The boy tightened his arms around her shoulders, his small breath trembling against her ear. The light passed, slow and cruel. They kept climbing. When they reached the ridge, Ethan pulled them over, helping Maya and the boy to safety. They lay on stone, breath ragged. Below, the canyon they'd been in glowed under flashlight beams. Rook enforcers scanned the ground, quiet, quick. "Predators." Ethan exhaled. "They're tracking footprints." Maya nodded, already on her feet again. No room for relief, no time for rest. Ethan pointed southwest. "Old radio tower is half a mile that way. We get height, we signal." Maya frowned. "Signal who?" Ethan's gaze held hers. "Someone I trust." She wanted to question him, press for answers, but trust was a currency they'd spent so much of already. She could only hope he still had enough to buy their lives. They moved again, this time across open rock, low but fast. The boy walked now, though he leaned against Maya's side. Ethan remained ahead, cutting a path. Minutes stretched in silence. Maya's mind drifted. To Braddock. His last look. His soft smile. He had walked into darkness, knowing no one would sing for him, because dignity didn't demand an audience. It simply acted. Her throat tightened. Ethan whispered, "We're close." An old silhouette rose against the horizon, a broken structure of rusted metal. The radio tower leaned slightly, battered by time and wind. They approached from below, climbing rocks until they reached its base. A small shack sat beneath it, half collapsed. Ethan ducked inside, sweeping dust from a control panel. "Power?" Maya asked. "Maybe." He tapped wires, adjusted knobs, checked batteries. The panel sputtered weakly, lights flickering. Maya spotted a box labeled with fading letters. Field Relay 1. Her heart leapt. Back up. Ethan nodded. Not clean, but enough. He opened it, revealing a small portable transmitter. He calibrated it, hands steady. Maya watched, the way he worked without fear, without hesitation. He had lived 4 years in shadows. This was who he had become. Finally, he spoke into the mic. Shadow calling Phoenix, come in. Static crackled. He repeated. No answer. He turned the dial. Shadow calling Phoenix. Silence. Then, a faint voice broken by static. Phoenix copy who? Ethan exhaled relief. Shadow 02, we need evac priority. Static swallowed the reply. Maya leaned close. Are they coming? Ethan didn't answer. He adjusted again. Phoenix say again. Coordinates confirm. Ethan rattled off numbers, quick, precise. He paused. 3 survivors, 1 minor. Static. Gita unknown hold. The signal cut. Silence filled the shack. The boy's voice trembled. What does that mean? Ethan looked at him gently. It means help heard us. The boy nodded, trying to believe. But Maya heard the uncertainty. ETA unknown. Hold. Hold where? For how long? Until what? Ethan set the transmitter aside. We need to stay hidden. High ground gives us eyes. He climbed the tower. Maya helped the boy settle inside the shack, giving him her jacket. Dust settled around them, glittering in pale moonlight. Ethan called down from above. Movement east side. Maya stepped out, climbed a few rungs, lifting her head above rock. Below, 3 enforcers moved across the flats, sweeping shadows. Close. Too close. Ethan climbed down silently. They're widening their circle. Maya felt her pulse drum. How long until Phoenix arrives? Ethan shook his head. No way to know. They barricaded the shack door with broken boards. Ethan positioned himself near the entrance. Maya stayed by the boy. Minutes passed. Breathing. Waiting. Listening. Then, the ground trembled. Maya stiffened. Ethan looked up. That's not a helicopter. A low rumble grew. Closer. Heavier. Like a storm rolling beneath the earth. Maya stepped outside. On the horizon, a dust cloud rose. At first shapeless. Then, headlights cut through. A convoy. 3 armored trucks. Rook. Ethan cursed softly. They brought ground. Maya felt the boy's small hand slip into hers. What do we do? He whispered. Ethan scanned the terrain, calculating. We run west, into the hills. Maya nodded. She grabbed the boy, swung him onto her back again. Ethan shouldered his pack. They bolted. The trucks accelerated. Headlights slicing the dark. Engines roared, kicking sand. Ethan led, zigzagging through rocks. Maya followed, feet scraping stone. Her legs screamed. The boy clung tight. The trucks closed fast. Ethan shouted. There, crevice. A narrow crack in the hill, barely visible. They sprinted. The first truck fired, a round slamming into rock beside them, spraying shards. Maya shielded the boy. Ethan dove into the crevice. Maya followed, sliding into darkness. Stone scraped skin, the crack barely wide enough. Behind them, bullets pounded the rock, sparking, exploding dust. They crawled. The crevice tunneled deeper, twisting like a wound. Maya's shoulders scraped. The boy whimpered into her neck. Ethan's silhouette guided them through dark